Welcome back to another episode of Decoding Project 2025. I'm your host, Tristan Snell. As always, we are descending more and more into the heart of darkness that is Donald Trump's Project 2025, his blueprint for a second and increasingly fascist presidential administration. We're moving on this week further into the document. Around page 293 is where we'll pick up with their plans for the Department of Agriculture. Now, that gets into a lot of other things that are very, very important around nutrition, as well as around the support of the American government for American farmers. So let's just dive right in. Right off the bat, it gets into other things you wouldn't necessarily think of. This comes up a number of times in the document, but they want to withdraw from all United Nations and other international climate efforts. They say that multiple times throughout the document. That probably comes as no surprise, but we need to believe them when they say these things. A vote for Donald Trump will be a vote to further destroy the climate faster and reduce our chances of being able to save ourselves. There's also a number of points in this section where they talk about really favoring, if you decode it, they want to favor industrial food, the cheapest, worst food that you possibly can think of. That's what they want to favor. They don't want to be providing any help or support for healthier, better food. They want to subsidize and support the very worst food that anyone can possibly make. But here's where it really starts to get interesting, is some of these things are not surprising, right? If you think about right-wingers, of course they want to trash the climate. Of course they want industrial food. But for all of Donald Trump's talk about making America great again, or about wanting to be the president for the heartland or whatnot, for real America, they actually, and this is really key, we need to trumpet this from the mountaintops. Page 297, they're going to cut aid to American farmers. Okay, the US government has all of these programs in place to help protect American farmers from bad crop years, from big swings in prices, from the tragedies that can result from overproduction because American farms are so wonderfully productive. There are these programs in place to prevent a new Dust Bowl situation from occurring, to prevent the kind of horrible feast and famine situations that tragically afflicted American farmers all through the first couple hundred years of American history, particularly in the Midwest. They want to cut all of that because it's, the roots of all of this get into, conservative policy going back decades. And of course, any group that they can cut off and say, oh, well, you don't deserve that kind of welfare. That welfare is only reserved for billionaires that support our campaigns. That's what they're doing here. Like that, they're basically saying, oh, farmers, yeah, we don't really need them anymore. Boom, you're gone. So I want to see Donald Trump try to sell Project 2025 in Wisconsin or in Minnesota. He thinks he can win Minnesota. He can't win Minnesota. But Donald Trump, I dare you, go to Wisconsin and let's open up page 297 of Project 2025. And you try to explain to farmers in Wisconsin how you're going to cut their aid. Go ahead, try that. Let's see how well that goes for you. Not surprisingly, then they also want to cut and gut SNAP because, women with children who are hungry, no, we don't care about them. So that's not going to happen. That's on page 300, probably not surprising there. They also want to cut safety regulations for baby formula. There's this wonderful storyline that the right wing likes to push out that says that, the baby formula shortage was because we had these safety regs that are unnecessary. It's government red tape. And if we just get rid of those, we'll have all the baby formula we want. Yeah, the reason why that those things happened is because there were toxins and pathogens being found in baby food, right? Do you want salmonella in baby formula? Because that's what you would get if you don't actually have any regulations saying that the food has to be safe, right? This is going into newborns, and you're going to basically say, you know what? Government industry can just regulate itself. We don't need to actually have any regs there. That's unnecessary. We know how well that goes. Self-regulation is a complete load of bullshit pretty much in every industry It's not certainly going to work in something where you're going to have sick or dead babies. Tell me how that's pro-life. Okay, you want to encourage everybody to have babies even through forced birth, and then you're going to say, oh, let's not have any safety regs on baby formula. Okay, that's just a wonderful thing, but it shows the true colors of this movement. Then even as kids get older, we want to cut food for them too. So this has been something a lot of people have been talking about, that they want to cut funding for school lunches, including in the summer. So you have, on the one hand, Governor Tim Walz in Minnesota providing more food to kids. And here in Project 2025, Donald Trump is promising that school lunches will just be cutted and gutted all over the place. Then we get into some other interesting areas here. Page 305, they actually want to terminate permanent conservation easements. Okay, so there's a lot of places in the country where you have open spaces have been protected by conservation easements. So the land is not government owned, it's privately owned, but there are restrictions on what you can build on these conservation easements. They exist all over the place, but it's about protecting our national heritage by taking the most beautiful spaces in America, the most precious and fragile spaces in our ecosystems, and making sure that they cannot be destroyed by development. Donald Trump wants to, by the way, legally, these are easements that have been placed and put down and agreed to in perpetuity, right? The whole point is that you're never going to be able to change it, right? Donald Trump wants to basically take a machete through all of that and say that those are no longer going to be enforced. So if you live near a conservation easement and you love the fact that that wetland area is not going to get built on, that stand of old trees is not going to get torn down, that those hills or mountains near you are going to be kept the way that they are, and that we're really truly going to care about America the Beautiful. Donald Trump wants to ruin all of that. Project 2025 is proposing to just eliminate all of those legal easements and just have a free-for-all where people are going to be able to destroy those environmental jewels however they want. So that's something to think about as you're casting your ballots and thinking about how you're going to get involved this fall. They also want to eliminate federal meat inspection requirements. That's another fun one. So another through line through all of this is they're going to make America less safe. They're going to make America sicker. They're going to make America weaker through all of these things. We're going to have sick and dead babies. We're going to have people suffering from E. coli because their meat was not federally inspected. They want to allow states to handle meat inspection. Do you trust that a red state that's run by a governor like Greg Abbott is going to do a good job with meat inspection? They can't even keep the lights on down in Texas. They have these natural disasters all the time that bring down their grid. And then there are politicians like Abbott fleeing off for Japan or Ted Cruz going to Cancun. They won't even stay in their own goddamn state while the power grid goes down and people are freezing in their homes or dying of heat exhaustion. But hey, why don't we let a state like Texas be the one that determines whether or not our meat is safe? That sounds like a fantastic idea. The fact that we have the USDA checking our meat was at the time, it was about a century ago, that was a little bit more than that now. That was considered to be a great advancement in civilization. The fact that America became a world leader in food safety because of the work of journalists who had uncovered a lot of the horrific things that were happening in the meatpacking industry. And because you did have lots and lots of people that would get sick from tainted meat, from rotted meat, America needed to do something about that. And we did. And it made us stronger. It made us better. It made us safer. I don't understand how any parent can actually look at this document, Just look at this section alone. If you're a parent and you're still trying to figure out who you're going to vote for, or you have a neighbor or a family member who's not sure who they're going to vote for, send them to this section right here and then ask them whether or not they feel comfortable letting these people, Donald Trump and his cronies, be the ones that are taking care of their kids' safety. Do you want these people, do you want JD Vance in charge of baby formula or in charge of meat inspections? You don't want this. You really, really don't want this. These people are going to make us weaker, safer, sicker. They're going to also allow for a repeal of all the dietary guidelines, making it easier for corporate giants to peddle unhealthy food. This would be a terrible outcome. We already have enough public health and obesity problems in this country. We don't need to add to it more by getting rid of one of the only things that's kind of worked to try to get people to eat healthier. Okay, if we make it so that it's just a free-for-all where industrial food interests get to just peddle whatever they want, the cheapest, least healthy, most unhealthy food, where are we going to end up? Things are going to get worse, not better. Again, one of the keys here is not only are they stabbing American farmers in the back, they're then basically saying, let's make America sicker again. Let's undo all of the advances that the US government has been able to make over the last century with having a better food supply in this country. And let's actually rewind to the 1900s, to the 1800s, when people used to die from unhealthy and unsafe food. Let's go ahead. Let's go back to that. Just go back to the frontier while you're at it, okay? Go ahead and go on the Oregon Trail and die of dysentery. I mean, why would you want that? Why do you want to go back to the 1800s for things like food safety? Who the hell are these people? The answer is they'll do anything for a buck, and somewhere behind every single one of these stupid but diabolical proposals of theirs is some corporate interest or campaign donor who has wanted this to be there, or it's some sort of sop or pandering to some interest that they want to win over to win the election. Let's move on to the Department of Education, which these things get even more fun. But they want to kill the Department of Education. And remember that the overall theme here is that they want to defund the public schools. This has been a project of the right for decades. Okay. This goes back to, there are quotes and a lot of documentation about this, that what they want to do is to get rid of public schools and return schooling to being something that was run by churches. Now, I would say they've added to this since then. You've got the far religious right that wants to turn education back to being something that's run by churches. Then you've also got this newer, just metastasizing industry of for-profit education that has come along that wants to turn education into something that they can make a buck off of, have the lowest cost product at the highest possible price and make a fortune. That is the Betsy DeVos model. That is the Donald Trump model with Trump University. That's what they want to do to public education in this country. They want to turn it into one big Trump University. That's what they want to do to America. Has the best colleges and universities in the world. And they want to take our wonderful college and university system and turn it into a Trump University, a Corinthian. That's what they want to turn it into. They refer to the Federal Accreditation Cartel. That is a code. They want to get rid of accreditation. There are a lot of unaccredited schools, so they don't have the requisites of a real school. And they want to say, you know what, let's get rid of all of that. They also, what is code here also is that they would easily start stripping away any state licensing requirements for schools. So you'd be able to take something like Trump University and you'd slap whatever name on it you want. You can call it a university when it's not a real university. You can say it has a license when it doesn't. You can say it's accredited when it isn't. Get rid of all of those standards. And then suddenly anybody can open a school. It can have any content that it wants. It's completely unregulated. It's completely unlicensed, and it's a total free-for-all. What will it do? It will promise things like job placement, like what it will teach people, and it will not offer those things. It'll rip people off, and then they won't be able to get their money back. It's basically a complete blank check for consumer fraud. That's what they want to do. They want to basically turn all of American education into that kind of wild west of for-profit ed. They also want to end, this is really key, check out page 322. All of the things that the Biden-Harris administration has done regarding student debt relief, they want to undo. Donald Trump's Project 2025 would end all student debt relief. It's right there on page 322 of the document. If you have benefited from that relief, if you know other people who have, if you're hoping that you'll benefit from future rounds of that debt relief, there is no way that you can be supporting Donald Trump and Project 2025, because this is going to completely end your hopes for being able to have that debt relief. Instead, they want to take student debt and turn it into a new government corporation. What the hell does that mean? They want to turn student debt into what has already happened to mortgages, where it turned into a vehicle for speculation and profit and crashes, because that's what happened to mortgages. Suddenly they became a commodity that could get packaged up and that they could then slice and dice into these securities that then got traded. And that was the cause of the 2007 crash, was speculation around mortgage-backed securities. Being able to corporatize student debt is a slippery slope toward having yet another vehicle that can create financial instability and crashes in the future. And it basically just takes the hard work of American students and turns it into something that can be a financial game. So of course they want to do that. That tracks it completely. Again, more with the for-profit schools having a free hand to commit fraud. This happens repeatedly throughout the document. Check out page 332, 351, 359. One thing that's interesting here is they single out law schools in particular, wanting to get rid of accreditation for law schools. What they want to do is to then have a tier of unaccredited law schools that can then churn out lawyers that will do their bidding, because this entire model of Project 2025 is reliant upon coming up with some kind of loyal set of government workers who will implement all of these policies. And they're actually very much short on manpower. They don't have enough people to actually take over the federal government from within. And they need to find these people. So this is part of let's just be really real about this. The long game here is for them to have more foot soldiers inside the federal government to dismantle it from the inside. They want to churn out a bunch of folks from diploma mills and then plug them into the federal government under a fascist administration so that they're able to have foot soldiers to do their bidding. And we're going to be continuing to do this deep dive into Project 2025 with more episodes of Decoding Project 2025, part of Taking Down Trump. We'll see you next time. That's all for today's show. As always, if you like what you're hearing, make sure to follow this podcast so that the episodes automatically download to your devices. You can watch this show on YouTube, and always make sure to follow me on Twitter and subscribe on Substack. That's it, and I'll see you next week.